welcome. The LEC returned to the Rift yesterday, but for some, it was not a warm welcome back. We'll see if XL Esports and SK Gaming can shake things up today in our very first match. You can see the players arriving here at the studio, trying to bounce back from yesterday's defeats. We'll find out who will be victorious today. And hello, everybody. I am QuickShot, joined at the analyst desk by Ender and Medic. We're going to wrap up week 4, Ender.
Yeah, we've actually got some good games today, too. I think a lot of stuff that could be playoffs impacting come towards the end of the day as well.
Ooh, very exciting stuff. Medic is absolutely stumped, so let's move on. G2 Esports, Origin, and Fnatic came back from Rift Rivals in style. All of them picked up wins, despite the fact that Origin had a little bit of a difficult time against XL. I don't want to talk about them, though, because we've spoken about them so much. Medic, I want to talk about Splice.
To me, I think Splice are in a really good position to challenge to be the third best team in our league at the moment. They beat Origin in week 3. Yesterday, they came back with a strong performance up against SK as well. And when Kobe is playing this well, you have to look at them as a podium contender come the end of the split.
Yeah, the timing on this play, too, from Kobe is just absolutely perfect. He can do it in the lane. He can do it in the team fights. This man does it all.
And of course, for Splice, they continue to impress. They're going to have a difficult match at the end of the day. We'll find out how well they are going to perform. But the two teams that are struggling right now, Misfits and Vitality, they're in a crisis. 2 wins, 5 losses, and Ender, they're not in playoff contention. They don't even look playoff worthy.
No, I mean, right now, both of these teams are on the outside trying to look in. And the fact that they're both in that position and also playing each other today means that the loser of this match has such a difficult road to actually make it to playoffs, showing that actually they're already, only 2 wins in the season. Also losing to teams that aren't even in there, that could be really brutal.
That's the big thing, I think, right? Because we're almost at the halfway point of the season. Next week, day 1 is halfway through. If you get there with 2 or 3 wins, you have a massive turnaround to look towards that 7-8 win mark that really spells playoff contention.
Well, we'll have to find out if Misfits or Vitality can do it. Right now, I don't think that they can. Yesterday, we also got our first look at patch 9.13. We saw a couple of Mordekaisers. They left a lot to be desired, but we didn't see Kiana.
Yeah, I mean, she was banned in 3 games, just mysteriously absent in 2. To me, that says these teams haven't had enough time to actually pick up on her. So the bans were less about her strength because they weren't banned in all 5 games. And more that they didn't have the practice playing against, and then the teams that didn't pick it at all didn't have enough to play it themselves. So I think come week 5, week 6, we will definitely be seeing her on the Rift.
I totally agree, but I also think the scrim meta seems to dictate Azir or Corki in the mid lane at the moment. Someone that has good wave clear that scales well into the late game as well. And because we saw so much Azir and Corki, Kiana doesn't really fit against either of those champions. She gets poked out a little bit too easily. She's much stronger when she can be the assassin that she wants to be.
Well, Ender, talk to me about Mordekaiser. He went 0-2 yesterday. Expect only put up 3,639 damage. It's the lowest of any top laner all split. It was only Excellent Rogue that played this champion. And was it that reason it lost, or is the champion just not viable at this level?
I mean, I definitely think this champion is good, but what I saw from these players is that they didn't actually fully understand how to use the Mordekaiser. They're ulting Tahm Kench in fights, which means you're trading a top laner for support. That just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I saw some mistakes inside the laning phase as well, so I definitely think this champion is better than what we saw yesterday, but even then, we saw pretty disgusting counter picks in that vein who can just smash you in the death realm. Any champion that can go toe-to-toe in long 1v1s is going to do well.
I think a big thing for the Mordekaiser is, and we were talking a bit about this before the show, if you can find a composition that synergizes with him, it can work really well, because in terms of objective control, Mordekaiser is actually really good. You take the enemy jungler out of the game and you secure the Baron or the Mountain Dragon or whatever objective you want pretty easily, but it's much more a compositional thing rather than a blind pickable top laner.
Yeah, I also think that if you look towards like later game 5v5s, Mordekaiser is really going to struggle. You don't have that same like AoE team fight output that maybe other juggernauts in the game might have. You end up getting kited out, and you feel like that ultimate is not as powerful as it would be, isolating someone earlier on.
I still really want to see what Mordekaiser can do in the hands of like a Fnatic or a G2. I'm hopeful. I'm also hopeful we'll see Kiana today. Maybe, maybe not. Look, last week, LCK and LPL, they faced off in the finals of Rift Rivals Asia. And Medic, I'm going to ask you to tell me what happened.
Well, thank you very much, QuickShot. As we all know, though, it was 2 weeks ago in Los Angeles that the superior regions faced off. But on the other side of the globe, the LCK, the LPL, the LMS, and the VCS took to the Rift to prove who is the beast in the East. Now, the LMS and VCS quickly fell to the wayside, not picking up a single win, but the real battle raged between the LCK and the LPL. In groups, Korea decided they are fed up with losing internationally by winning 7 games in a row, and their undefeated run actually culminated in a final showdown between the 3-time world champions SKT and the current title holders Invictus Gaming. IG controlled and smashed SKT in the early game until SKT started fighting back. The game became a constant back and forth of highlight plays, including Faker's insane TP on Azir. Now, ultimately, SKT couldn't secure the 8-0 for the LCK, but it set up an intense final after the LPL smashed their way through the LMS in semis. Now, rather than just focus on the games themselves, I want to talk about some of the standout players from the finals, starting with Deft. Many EU fans may remember him from KT at Worlds last year, when he finally has had the opportunity to get some revenge with his new Kingzone roster. His Ezreal was insane and basically 1v9ing, and it increases expectations for him and Kingzone going into Worlds later this year. It wouldn't be an international check-in, though, without mentioning Faker. Bringing out the Nico in Game 2, the greatest of all time, made plays that defined the match. Faker's impact could be felt on the Rift as he reminded everyone why he is so frigging good. Now, it's been over 2 years since Faker's last international title, and it seems the unkillable Demon King is kind of tired of waiting around. The LPL were finally able to strike back in the series as FPX's Doinb brought out a magnificent Pantheon mid. He's never made Worlds, but domestically Doinb is known for playing some crazy stuff, and with this pick he had everyone's attention. Level 2 roams bops, sky drops into any and every fight. This guy was the key that helped his team finally strike back against Korea and potentially set up for the LPL comeback. Unfortunately for the LPL, though, Damwon had something to say about it. They secured the win for the LCK, and as a support main myself, I have to praise their support Beryl. It was a joy to watch and sit and see how he reacted to situations, set up plays for his team, and overall just dominated the game. Now, Damwon are starting to prove they're a team close to getting to Worlds, but last year we saw the LPL win Rift Rivals and win Worlds. The question is, are the LCK going to do the same?
I mean, I definitely think LCK stepped up. They played very, very well at Rift Rivals, and it's so difficult because last year, when LPL won Rift Rivals, we all just scoffed it off. It doesn't matter, it's not a very serious tournament. They then went on to win Worlds. So is this foreshadowing for 2019?
Hey man, I'm just saying that last year LPL won MSI and then won Worlds. I don't think the Rift Rivals is as important, so if you look this year...
So who won MSI? Oh, we did.
Oh, that's right.
So are you saying, oh, I really hope you are, but let's not jinx it, let's not jinx it. We'll have to find out because all of these teams, they are in the running for Worlds 2019, which will take place here in Berlin, as well as Madrid and Paris between the 2nd of October and the 10th of November. Here in the LEC, however, the road to Worlds and the summer finals in Athens continues. So let's take a look at the matches that we have on the docket today. SK and XL will start us off in just a little while. Then we've already talked about the battle of the struggling squads in Vitality and Misfits.
Yeah, I'm saying right now, the loser of this match between Vitality and Misfits is not a playoff contender.
Whew. I think I agree. It's a pretty brave statement to say in week 4, but I think having only 2 wins going into the final game of this half of the split really doesn't put you in a good spot. Maybe we'll see one of them resurge in the second half, but it's going to be a hard road to carry.
Now, how much of a fight is Schalke going to put up against G2? Because obviously G2 is the favorite, but will G2 be able to do to Schalke what they did to Misfits?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I wasn't quite expecting that, but I'll take it. Look, you guys at home, you can already get your tickets to the main event of the split over at riot.com/Athens. Come join us. Let's see who's going to make it to the finals. Now, today in the final game, it is going to be Fnatic taking on Splice. The undefeated Fnatic taking... facing off against an on-form Splice. I think this is the best that Splice have looked in a very long time. And this man, Xerxes, has to control this man, Broxer, if Splice are going to win.
Yeah, which is scary because both have looked so good, but Xerxes has been doing so much work for Splice in the early game to set them up for success, trying to read the enemy jungle, which is not easy at all against Broxer. Probably our best jungler in EU at the moment. Brox's Lee Sin, especially in early games, is just out of this world. You look at this game yesterday, you say, okay, okay, he got super fed. Maybe that's just an outlier, but he has been doing it so consistently throughout this season, not just stepping up in the early games, but also finding those huge team game-winning kicks in the mid to late game.
And the thing is, where we saw Xerxes and Splice be successful yesterday was shutting down Selfmade, reading him, and kind of neutralizing the enemy jungler. Against someone like Broxah, that's so much harder to do because he can play around every single one of his lanes. Although we haven't seen him focus bot much this split, he can still go down there and set up Reckless and Hillisang. So where on earth do you go if you're Xerxes? You have to have perfect vision control for the entire game.
Yeah, I think it's actually just going to be so much fun because I think Elise for Xerxes, Lee Sin for Broxah, we're going to see blood on the Rift today.
Now, what about the matchup between Reckless and Kobbe? Because Kobbe seems to be on fire at the moment, and he's always had a bit of a chip on his shoulder because he kind of is underrated. He's one of the unsung heroes in the bot lane.
Yeah, I mean, he was for a long time, but you look at his spring performance, every single pro player stepped up and said that Kobbe was one of, if not the best AD carries in Europe in that split. I think he has something to prove. He's already proved himself, and he's going to look good today.
If he can take down Fnatic, that will be the cherry on the cake. I'm going to find out from these guys who they were predicting to win in a moment, but yesterday we had 10 perfect scores. I was not one of them. Let's see what our spicy picks are for the day. Okay, so first of all, Medic, you've got XL over SK.
So here's the thing, Trevor. Tomorrow is the Cricket World Cup final, and England play up against New Zealand.
It's not coming home.
It's coming home. England are going to win, so
home.
I had to predict XL. I do have some real analysis behind it as well. I think if XL play the early game as well as they did against Fnatic and Origin, SK can't make up that big of a deficit. If they fall 3,000-4,000 goal behind, I think XL should be able to snowball that to a victory.
Is it going to happen, Ender?
No, I mean, you can see right there, I say no. I think, yeah, that sounds all good in theory, but I think Crown Shot is going to outclass in the bottom lane, and Selfmade's the better jungler.
You also think Misfit's going to win, though,
Yeah,
so I'm not sure how much we can judge you.
Stats bot that's been tactically inting all split long. Fans, did you guys not see the Misfits game? I voted for Misfits yesterday. It was a terrible idea. But Ender, how are they going to win?
I mean, neither of these teams look good. Let's be honest. Well, you can say give Vitality the benefit of the doubt. They played against Fnatic yesterday. Misfits played against G2 yesterday. It's the same thing. Misfits are bringing back Febivin into the mid lane, and I think that's a better look for them.
Worked out really well for them last time.
Heads or tails, right? That's basically what the call is. Listen, keep sending in your predictions to our Twitter page at LEC. Don't send it to at LOL Esports. In the Kia Player of the Game leaderboard, Broxah is currently sitting in first place, followed by Perks and Vizichachi. Now, Selfmade won in spring. And the question I'm going to ask you guys, does the Kia Player of the Game leaderboard foreshadow MVP? They are not linked. They do not count towards one another. But is it enough to predict the MVP from this?
So for me, it is right now. I mean, Broxah's first alphabetically. Both Perks and Chachi also have 3 wins on the Kia board, but Broxah is the best player in the league, in my opinion, right now. The impact he has on Fnatic in the early game, the amount that he allows them to play around whatever lane he's camping at the time, just means that Fnatic are able to be undefeated and should continue to be undefeated, at least until they play G2 again.
So, Medic, what I'm hearing is you're saying right now that's your
Broxah's my MVP, 100%.
Is that fair?
No, I 100% agree. I think Brox has been playing out of his mind this split. There's no player in the LEC that is more valuable to his team at week 4 than Broxah is for Fnatic.
And I think it's crucial to clarify that when you're saying more valuable to his team, you're not saying he's the best player, you're not saying he's the most impressive, but it's just without Broxah, Fnatic don't do what they do.
Yeah, right? And I think it's actually fair to say that after, 4 or 3.5 weeks so far, that he has played the best during this time. Now say who's the best player in EU, you have to look back much further, but he is definitely putting his name up there.
I'm just going to say, as much as there's the most valuable idea from here, Broxah is the best player in EU, in my opinion. He beats out Caps and Perks.
Ooh, bold statement. Let us know on Twitter what you think. Hit him up. Listen, while we do talk about a lot of big names in LEC, one that comes to mind is Origin's Miffy. He's had a career defined by titles and success, but also a few setbacks. Here's our newest episode of LEC Legends. When Miffy and Lemon Dogs joined the league in 2013, it was a collection of players that really nobody knew about. Lemon Dogs surprised everybody with their gameplay.
Turnover is too little, too late. 90 caliber net. Oh! It's Hourglass baiting in there. Urgent strike through.
Miffy as a player was still just cutting his teeth, and while the players stepped up and competed and even made it to Worlds, it kind of felt like a flash in the pan. The 2015 Origin Challenger to Worlds run begins. A very large part of that is Miffy and Niels, and they make it through Challenger practically undefeated. Miffy had gone through a transformative period. He had grown up a little. Origin open up the summer split, proving that they are the real deal. Fnatic and Origin face off in our summer split finals. Reckless and Yellow Star were coming up against Niels and Mithy, and every single game was an epic. For the first time in 3 months, 12 weeks, 6 patches, one team added 1 loss to Fnatic's roster, and it's Origin. Every single game really led from the bottom lane. Aggressively, I don't think that Descent is connected from Mithy. Teleport was cancelled by the max range hook. Origin in the 4th game after 15,000 gold down and giving away 2 Barons. They're going to force game 5. They're going to play Silver Scrapes. It was the first time in a long time that you felt like a team could compete with the legacy that Fnatic had built up, and it was largely led by the Niels and Mithy duo. Watching Worlds in 2015, Niels and Mithy showed up every single game and were largely responsible for pushing Origin all the way through to the semi-finals, when they did eventually lose to Korea's SKT.
SKT to make it to the finals undefeated!
In 2016, during the course of the spring splits, Origin did not have the same highs that they once did, yet they still made finals. This time, it was against the new hungry upstarts of G2 esports. This was the 2nd European final in a row where Mithy was competing and where Mithy lost. And it was at the end of the spring split where Mithy and Sven decided to leave Origin, the team that gave them the platform to become superstars, to join the team that defeated them in the spring finals. It was in 2016 that Mithy truly became a legend in his own right. When he moved over to G2, having the shackles removed is really what elevated Mithy to be one of the most profound leaders and captains in-game that Europe has ever produced.
So let's just base and go top, and just even if we lose tempo, we get 1 tower at least. Or maybe we can just get Herald out of it, okay?
And now he had a bunch of young players that wanted to prove something, and these young players looked up to Mithy to learn. G2 Esports went on to dominate Europe, dethroning Fnatic for the first time in the history of League of Legends. They were the undisputed best team that Europe had. When I think about Mithy and Sven leaving G2 Esports, I think it's just the drive of the 2 players looking to conquer a new land. These 2 players had made 5 European finals back-to-back on 3 different rosters and won 3 of them. How do you keep that drive? This was a heartbreaking moment for Perks, for Sven, for Mithy. That was leaving a team that they had so much success with. I think they looked to North America as the next step, and they were looking to do it on the biggest team that NA has, TSM. The 2018 season in NA for Mithy sucked. TSM did not work, and Mithy had one of the most disappointing years of his career to date. Towards the end of 2018, I looked at Sven and Mithy and I said they're done. I said they're washed up, they went to NA and choked on their own ambition. And when I heard that Mithy was coming back to Europe in 2019, I was more nervous for him than I was for Origin. When Mithy came back to Europe, he had to prove to everybody that he was a world caliber support player. Origin surprised everybody.
Nemesis alive and well, zoning the team off.
And they made it to finals. And even though they were crushed by G2, they silenced a lot of doubters. And this level of synergy could be just what Mithy needs to deliver the Origin run at Worlds that was promised in 2015. I want to see whether or not Mithy and Origin can deliver the run at Worlds that was promised. They made semifinals with Mithy on that roster. At the beginning of this year, NA Mithy disconnected, EU Mithy reconnected, and he's playing out of his mind.
He definitely is. No longer on 60 ping. It's a lot easier, of course, to play that supporting role. But I think the thing with Mithy is it was very easy to count him out. Like we heard in the video, when they went over to NA, both him and Sven really struggled. And I thought him coming back here was actually a very big gamble for Origin. I thought there was better talent in Europe, better talent perhaps if you look to Korea as well. But he has made that role his own and almost stepped into the role we used to see Lemonation on C9. He's that veteran voice on the team, mechanically not great, but still able to do everything he needs to do.
Yeah, and we also also saw in the spring split, he sort of rose up alongside Origin. Started off a little, again, is this NA Mithy, but then really came up with the rest of the team and led them all the way to the finals.
I mean, it's very, very similar to the G2 story. When Mithy joined that squad, it was a bunch of hungry rookies looking to prove themselves. Now, there are some more experienced players in Alfari and Nuktak on Origin, but in the same way, they haven't found success like that G2 roster did. So that was LEC Legends with Mithy. It is time to live out every gamer's dream, and not just play League of Legends, but become it. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you Champion Charades. Now, the way this is going to work, our producers will be giving a champion to one of the casters on your screen. We will then need to act out that champion, and the other two people will need to guess it. I am actually terrified at this, because the last time we did this, I made fun of Shox for not being able to get it, and if it happens to me, she's going to make fun of me.
They were awful, though. They couldn't get any of them.
It's terrifying.
We're going to be good, guys. We're going to be real good.
Do not set expectations. Okay, so I'm just hearing that Medic will be the first one to go. So our producers have just given him his champion.
Okay, I'm ready. Are we ready?
Do it.
Okay.
What the? Volibear! Volibear!
Yeah, he won!
Volibear support, because you're a support
Let's
main
go.
too. Nice.
Okay, that was actually pretty good. That was
I'm
quite
really
quick.
good at this.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know he did that. I would have done that if I'd known he did that.
I haven't seen him dance like that in TFT.
Yeah.
Okay, next up it's going to be Ender. Okay, so Ender, your champion is... Don't tell me, though, because...
What on? A circle Viger?
Yes! We're so good.
Vigar!
I have no idea. I don't even know how that was Vigar.
It was yodeling.
Vigar!
Because you got to be a Yordle, right? And then you do the
He
circle.
threw the Bayfield strike.
I think that was ridiculous. I don't think... you're cheating somehow. That doesn't make sense.
2 points to Medic.
I'm being
2
told
points to
I'm
Medic.
next.
We're telepathic.
Yeah.
I'm being told I'm next. I'm
Okay,
not
here we
looking
go.
forward to this.
It's an old man.
Okay.
A very old man.
Skipping
Zoe!
rope.
Zoe!
Yes!
Wait, but
Zoe's the
that's
only
what
one with a
Zoe
skipping
does.
rope. Nidalee? Spit, Nidalee. Oh.
Italy.
Pike.
That's Pantheon?
Who else is Thresh?
Vara?
Olaf.
Yes!
Yes! He's turning your
actually
axe and
slipped.
picking it up.
I understand. Wait, but what's
3
the...
points.
Rocking and Ragnar
3
rolling.
points. Eddie, you were skipping.
There
They
we
go
go.
alternate.
You were definitely...
Also,
he was Zoe. He was
He's not
Zoe.
moving his axes.
Okay, I will admit
Yeah.
mine was worse, but
3
your
points.
Vigal made no sense.
Oh, okay.
Okay, Medic
we
will
got
be the
another
last
one.
player.
Oh.
Yumi?
No.
Oh, wait, that's a good guess, though. I have no idea what's happening right now.
He doesn't have any other skills.
Wait, who doesn't have any other skills?
What on earth is that?
Wait, what is help?
Okay, somebody help us out.
I actually don't even know how to guess this.
Can I?
Okay, so production is saying it's a jungler.
No, it's a mid laner.
Wait, what? Someone please
Okay.
help.
Okay, we've
There's
got
another
one more
tip.
tip. Production.
Keep doing that, though. It's helping.
Production
It's
are
helping,
saying
Medic.
Ender and I suck. And the
Nocturne!
Words.
Wait, that was terrible.
What else would you do for Nocturne?
I don't know. You can do like the arm things. You can do the...
What's this? This is what I'm doing.
Yeah, but we didn't know this video was coming.
That's really cool, though.
I hope
Yeah,
it ended on
and
video.
it was
Okay, this
acted out
guy...
very well.
Okay, hold up. This guy did it... Okay.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the LEC League of Legends.
You suck at this.
My cardio for the week.
I will say, though, he did commit more than you and I did, so...
Well, mine was easy.
Medic is the champion of Champion Charades.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations. Can we get back on track and talk about the games today? Because in our opening match, XL Esports will be looking to pick up their very first win, and here's what Kadril had to say earlier today.
I'm so
Thank you very much, QuickShot. I am joined by Kadril. Kadril, first off, thank you for joining me ahead of your game. I'm curious, I know it's been a tough split so far. How is the team mood on Excel heading into your match versus SK?
I mean, actually, it feels like we're on a clean slate, kind of, because the mood's really high. Like, everyone really wants to win still. No one's really tilted or, like, or angry or anything at all. Everyone's really calm, and, like, I think we're going to be doing pretty well today.
Good to hear. Now, of course, you guys have had some fantastic early games against top teams here in the LEC, both Fnatic and OG. It felt like you guys were at these significant advantage states. What's changed for you guys in the past few weeks to be able to find these big early game leads?
I mean, I think if you look at our team throughout the whole year, it's like, I think we've had really consistent early games, I think. Like, we always got these, like, 2 to 3K gold leads going into the mid game. But all the time, even last split, we kind of threw away the leads and like we didn't know where to be on the map in the mid game. And I think we've been changing the roster a lot as well, so it hasn't helped a lot with the synergy. But I think the early games have been solid, but we really need to work on our mid game, and that's what we've definitely been working on this week.
So is that kind of the last key that's missing for Excel to find a first win on the stage today, is just solving those mid-game problems in this SK game?
Yeah, I mean, I think if we can keep up the consistent early games and we can fix our mid game a little bit, I think we'll be a pretty strong team. I mean, it really sucks that we're 0-7, so it's hard to say that we're a strong team, but I feel like there's definitely like something there.
All right, is this the game, Kadril? Final question, put you on the spot. Is this the game where Excel finds their first win?
Yeah, it is.
Absolutely. All I wanted to hear. Thank you again so much for taking the time ahead of your game. Back to you at the desk. Quick shot.
Thank you very much, Dracos. It wasn't the most confident, yes, we will win. However, I did appreciate Kadril's candidness, talking about the team, saying the synergy issues are a problem. XL did talk about the 10-man roster at the beginning of spring. Kadril, in my opinion, not that in love with the idea. But look, he did rightfully point out that XL have been able to pick up early game advantages. They did it against Fnatic, they did it against OG.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is driven by Kadril in the jungle. I think he's very smart in his pathing to find early game ganks. You know, if a lane can blow a flash, he's going to path down there and be ready when they are overextended. The issue for me, especially in this game we look at yesterday, is that they didn't give themselves enough options. They're engaged when it comes to, you know, fighting a big team fight is all Mystiques. So if Mystiques can't be the one to force that fight, they can't push their advantage. They end up stalling out and then get beaten later on.
I definitely agree with that. I think Kadril is the linchpin, as you say. Getting him on a ganking jungle is really what XL want to do today. And I do worry a little bit about the bot lane. Mystiques and Jessica, although they've had some good moments, I remember the level 1 from yesterday where Mystiques jumps in, has to flash out immediately. It feels like there's just that little bit of something special missing from this team.
The one thing that was impressive, though, is despite those fumbles, they still managed to pull ahead. So let's see what they can do against SK Gaming, because with XL's current form, this might be their best chance for a win. Before we talk about the matchup a little more, I want to hear from you guys at home. Who will win our very first game? Go spam now in chat, either SK or XL. Those are the letters, XL. Let's start with SK Gaming. They had a disappointing loss yesterday, and I want to know what will be their win conditions today.
I think a big one for me is that I don't want to see them splitting up and going for that 1-3-1 style that we saw yesterday. It's too narrow a win condition that they can't execute on. They need tools to be able to close out games, and that means some form of 4v1 or 4-1 or 5v5 in order to actually win. And a big part of that is I want Dreams on a playmaking support. I don't want him on the Tom Kent where he's just saving crown shot. I want him on something that can make plays because he is so good, and it's a shame to not see him be able to express that talent.
Now, on the other side of the rift, what will XL be doing to shut down SK?
I think Kadril actually put it perfectly for himself. They're getting early leads anyway, so keep Kadril on a ganking jungler because that's what's been getting them these leads. He's very good at reading the map. And then just have some clear mid-game calls. Have one person making the call. It doesn't matter really if it's the right or wrong call in the moment. You just all need to be following it. Because yesterday, Mickey got caught out so much because he wasn't coordinating with the rest of the team.
Well, take a look behind you. SK or XL rather, 50-50.
51!
Now, Ender, the question I have for you is, if XL are able to generate a lead like they did against Origin, but against SK, are SK capable of playing from the deficit and winning the game like Origin did yesterday?
I think they definitely are capable. It's going to be much harder for them, but ultimately what it comes to is how these two teams draft, because I do think that they haven't given themselves enough tools to close out. So again, if XL are in a position where it's just up to Mystiques, well then I think if they have a lead, it's much more of a coin flip whether or not they can actually close. If they have more options, then they should be able to take an early advantage and make it a win.
Medic, I have one last question before we head to the caster desk. About 30 minutes ago, you predicted an XL win. You quoted, "It's coming home." Give me another justification and why the British boys are going to do it.
XL can get ahead over Fnatic and Origin. SK can't even beat Splice. XL are taking the win.
Well, there we go. It's that simple. It's time to kick off today's action in the LEC. Let's hit the rift.
Thank you very much, Quick Shot, Medic, and Ender. Now I'm Dracos here with Frost as we get ready for our first game of the day. Of course, SK Gaming versus XL. That wasn't... I have problems with Medic's reasoning. That's all I'm going to say.
It was a good locker room, like, morale speech.
I feel like you should have him right there next to David Lim. David Lim says things, and he's kind of like in hip-hop when they have the ad-libs. Medic's like, yeah.
Oh, and Matt.
Yeah, like, you know what I mean? Like, hypes up the players, gets them in that moment.
Here's my thing, though. So, I see that the audience is split 50-50. It's supposed to be, theoretically, a very close matchup. I just feel like we have more tape and more evidence that if SK actually do fall behind, they're not as reliant on early game success as Excel have been. And it's weird to say that because even when Excel do get ahead in the early game, they've shown that they cannot transition that into actually winning the game, closing it out. Whereas we've seen plenty of footage of SK Gaming, if they fall behind, that they can actually turn it around and find some victories. So I still feel like we should be leaning towards SK Gaming just because A, they have wins on the boards, and they've also shown that when they do fall behind, that there is something still